heart. Jesus Christ.
Are you ready, Mr. King? Mr. Wick? Commendo Deo animus vestris, civimus ut finem, sinus cinerum, pulvis ut pulvis. Fire!
Celebrating 15 years of Rabbit and Red Radio. Now here's your hosts, the King of Porntown and Michael J.
Producer Mike! There it is.
I told you I'd have it in this week. I told you I would. So I did.
That was good. And quite the intro for both of us.
Yes, but I didn't like that my name was first, and I did not want to do it that way.
That's fine.
I had to, though.
You look good as an Asian male.
I mean, I do have a little bit of the well, maybe not so much anymore, but the eyes do like to, squinty sometimes, so that's how that works. But I like having you first, and I didn't want to put you as the Asian because you deserve to be Wick, and they didn't show Wick first. Yeah, they didn't show Wick first.
To be fair, I love Donnie Yen, so I would have been good either way.
Well, I just didn't want to relegate you to Donnie Yen. I wanted to have you be the Wickmeister because he is. Yes, we'll get to that in a bit, but yes. Oh.
But as always, folks, it is Rabbit and Red Radio. It is us. We are here. It is Thursday. I am one of your two hosts. Look at that. You get a two for you fuckers. I am Theo, as always, that one weirdo. And with me, as always, and he deserves the introduction to go with it. It is Producer Motherfucking Mike, you motherfuckers.
I might, you know what? Next week now, I might have to switch out the Producer Mike things and just pull the one that you just fucking did. Because that's really goddamn good.
I feel like I need to change it up with like voices too. Be like, ladies and gentlemen, yow, Producer Mike.
See, I can
put a little walking on it. Or all right. So we got this guy. Here he is. Producer. What did he produce? Produce? He got produce. Wow. Is he gonna cook me a squash? Producer Mike. I produced Offspring, and my balls look like the California raisins. The dances from the 80s, did you see that? No, 1980s, not 1880s. Fuck you, I know I'm old. All right. Hoo-ah.
I and
we'll
it's funny. Dude, I just heard that twice.
Ladies and gentlemen, yo, is Producer Mike.
I have the audio playing, the audio version through the app playing like quietly in the background so I can kind of monitor and make sure that that's going. So I heard it on here in my headphones, and then I heard it through my phone in the back. It's so weird. I'm just like, it's disorienting. I don't know why I'm doing it, but it's,
there's a lot going on there. But as you all can tell from, and we're gonna get, we've got some stuff to get into. I'm pretty excited, but as many of you might have picked up, we are gonna go into and I have to say it, like we always have conversations beforehand about what we're gonna talk about and cover and review. But what's so great with this is something we had talked about doing for a minute. We didn't really get there. and you had kind of finalized the series of these movies, and we had conversations back and forth, like as you're watching them in real time. So it was kind of like this text back and forth Mystery Science Theater 3000, which was pretty great. But we're going to get into the John Wick franchise, which feels weird to say, but we'll, once, like you said, we'll get into that a little more. But yeah, we were having some good conversations. I was actually at work, and you were like, "What the fuck? Now this happened. Now that happened." And the whole time, it's like I'm laughing because I'm like, I remember because I had seen most of these in the theater. Not the first one. Second one, yes. Third one, yes. Fourth one, yes. Fourth one was funny because it was like a really heavy winter because it came out in like March, but we were literally like blanketed in snow. So it was me, Steph, and Tyler, my son. And for those, and like I said, we'll get into a little more, but for those who know over time, the runtimes in this particular franchise have become, we shall say, extended.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, we're getting into how oh. Yes.
One John Wick in particular is about as long as one of our shows.
And I just have to say, I hope that we're not as boring as John Wick Chapter 4 was in some sections
Oh,
because
I'm sure we are.
it's I mean it's but see, like I don't think I'm ever going to watch that one again. I don't think I will, just because and also in searching for the clip that I used for the intro to the show, I was made aware because I think I told you I didn't hang out. Normally, when I watch movies at home, I stay through the credits just because I don't know, I'm fucked up and I like to do that for some reason because
Right.
I feel like I'm paying homage to the people that worked on the film. I
Yes.
did not stick
And these
around.
days, these days, I didn't mean to interrupt, but these days, some credits are like 10 minutes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and believe me, by the time I got to the credits of chapter 4 of John Wick, I was to the point where yeah, I think I'm done with this. And I just clicked off because I watched them on Peacock because I didn't want to go digging for my discs. So I just watched them on Peacock and I was like, but the fourth one was, don't get me wrong, there were great action set pieces at some points and I did enjoy it, but it's like, and you said this in our back and forth that it just takes so long to get to certain things. And I didn't believe that it was possible, but it's like I felt like I was watching the movie for 6 hours, and it was only almost three.
See, we're already digging into it. We might as well go full bore and get to the meat and potatoes because this and I love the fact that we are kind of starting this way because the franchise, discussing the franchise as a whole, and of course you can look it up, IMDb or whatever, but like I think what really encapsulates it, and I'll let you borrow my password for Amazon, Mike, not everyone else listening, to watch. So there's a documentary. So there are stories obviously back and forth about the series, but recently to promote Ballerina, and I have a take on that because I actually saw it opening night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a fan event. It was cool, but it wasn't like great. But I'll get into that more. But to promote Ballerina, Lionsgate put together this what's it called? A documentary, and it came out. It was like $10, so I bought it, and it's called "Wick is Pain," and it goes back. I mean, we just had the 10th anniversary last year of John Wick. And I saw it with my son again, saw it with my girlfriend, and it was really interesting to think about, because some franchises, they just crank out stuff.
Right.
Now, in the case of John Wick, especially when you look at like 4 movies in roughly 10 years,
Yeah,
that's
that's hard
pretty
to believe.
insane. Well, and when you think about franchise, you think of long reaching, like years upon years.
Mm.
And in the case of this franchise, it's almost like Indiana Jones, where it's like, or almost James Bond, maybe not as storied, because it's kind of a fresh bit, you know. But when you think about it, it's like 4 movies, Keanu Reeves. Keanu just turned 60, still magical unicorn that we do not deserve in this world. But
Mhm.
looking back, like I remember watching this documentary, and I highly recommend it. I love documentaries, especially not just about movies, but culture of movies and filmmakers and people who, because in some cases, I mean, they don't get bad, but they get real. Like there are some people in this documentary that get kind of real about the way this franchise might have been handled, and not necessarily something they were a fan of, but so be it, if you will. But it's crazy to think how first movie was just a little western, kind of neo western, and then you fast forward, and then the fourth movie is like, I mean, you have to plan your weekend around watching it. And I don't mean going to the movies now because it's been out for a couple years, but this is a franchise that, like many franchises, it's like, how did that happen? Where it really shouldn't have. So I highly recommend the documentary because it I mean, it doesn't throw any shade or anything on Keanu, but it is very much a peeling back of the curtain.
Mm.
And the way some people answered about certain things, and people were very candid. So one thing particularly, so for those who know, obviously we're getting right into it, and I'm all for that. That's great. But the first movie actually has 2 directors.
I didn't even realize that.
So Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, who had been friends, they had worked on movies together and stunts together. They built a stunt company together.
Mm.
They had done a lot of second unit stuff. They had done a lot of stunt choreography, and they finally were like, okay, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to make to kind of make our move, because they had done, both of them, especially David Lynch. He did like a ton of second unit,
Right.
um, especially even stuff with like Brad Pitt, because David Leitch started really as Brad Pitt's stunt double, and then you turn that around, and then Chad Stahelski actually met Keanu on The Matrix, and he was his stunt double for many years, especially on the trilogy. So
Ah.
you got these 2 old school stunt guys who, I mean, they started from like young in the business. Like even before they became directors, they were very well versed on how the business goes. So the they decide, to do this movie, and right around the time they do the movie, Chad Stahelski is looking. He's separated from his wife. Looks like they're getting divorced, and obviously when you're working, things can happen, life can happen, but it's like his big break as a movie, and the next thing he's getting kind of the heave.
Mm.
But they actually reconciled, and then on the second movie, she divorced him altogether. So it's like, but there was a lot of pressure on him from David Leitch, who then was his friend. And not to say they're not friends now, but I think them directing their first movie and all the hardship that came with it, because it wasn't a big movie. They didn't spend a ton of money on it because they didn't have a ton of money for it. They had backing pulled at one point, and Eva Longoria came out of nowhere and plucked down $6 million to save this production, because other people had like given back their fees and took out loans and like put money together to try to get this to happen. And you start to see, especially in the first one, you start to see like, it's really hard to go to work and give like 14 hours behind a monitor and directing and doing stuff when you're kind of in this relationship legal kind of battlefield, if you will. Because regardless of love or no love, like when you get, I can say this firsthand, when you get to divorce, everything's out the window. And it changes, it alters you. And I think it also alters perception about how you look at the world, because especially if you're with somebody for like a really long time and then you're not, really changes the way you look at life, because you have to look at the change within your own life. So they kind of play off of each other. But it was such a crisis, and it was not easy for them to make the first one. And then it ended up becoming a hit. It ended up working out for them. But Lionsgate was very adamant on a sequel sooner than later, because it was, the classic case of strike when the iron's hot. And in the box office, John Wick did fine, but it didn't do like massive numbers. However, it was kind of home video, which we still somewhat had, where it was like, oh, where's this been? And you then look at like, and in this documentary, the second part of it, where Chad Stahelski wants to make the second one, and David Leitch wanted to make what ended up being, which he did make, Atomic Blonde, and with Charlize Theron. And that was a big kind of nexus point for them, because Lionsgate wasn't going to wait on a sequel. They were like, yeah, we know you two directed it, but we want to go forward now, and we don't want to wait. And I think part of the issue that kind of came about too was the fact that they both directed it, but Chad Stahelski is the one credited, because as far as like the Motion Picture Association of Arts and Sciences, they normally don't give 2 credits for director. They do it for more known and storied directors, but they don't do it normally. And and in many ways, it's like some cockamamie rule that they came up with. It's probably something from fucking Jack Valenti's time, who's been dead for fucking I think like 15 years now. But yeah, it's not even like a law, or it's not in their bylaws. It is very much in their. It's not like a real rule. It's almost like a rule of thumb. It's kind of like, what was it, Pirates of the Caribbean? Oh, it's more like guidelines. It's not really a thing. But in the documentary, you see where there was kind of this push and pull, because David Leitch is like, well, we kind of created this together. I wanted to see it carry over together. And I think that really strained their relationship on many levels. But I also know that when you're kind of stuck with success, if you will, it's not going to be, it's not going to go on hold. You know, Lionsgate really made a franchise where there wasn't one. And to their credit, a lot of it works, but also Keanu's 60.
Right.
I do not need to see John Wick and the Dial of Destiny.
No, and no, and I don't think. I mean, with the way that 4 ended, um,
And
I'm
yes, we're going to spoil it.
I'm
So
I'm happy with it. Yeah, I'm happy with it. But, and I was talking to someone else who's also a Wick fan, and, I was saying how, we're watching it for the show and all that such. And so he was like, "I don't really like the ending of 4." And I said, "Why?" I said, "Because spoiler alert, you know, if he's, dead, then he's dead." Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna read you the exact text because
yes.
because just the way that he wrote this. Wait, I gotta scroll back a minute. Here we go. Oh wait, no, that's my. And surprisingly, I gave it 3 stars on
Letterbox.
Letterbox because yeah, I said it was just too long, and I think they could have cut like 45 minutes off of it, um, and maybe we would have been better. But what? Hold on. Oh no, that's for that one. Okay, this is. Jeez, this is okay. That's 3. Oh, yeah. Okay, so he's gonna watch. I watched 4. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So he said, he agreed with my review, but so I said I had a feeling you would, and he said, although I don't like the ending, and I said I did. I assume he's dead, and that's it. And and he said, well, which then negates all of the films. Why fight so hard just to die? And I said it's an honorable death. And he
Exactly.
said, but why was any of it necessary? I said, "It wasn't really, but there's some entertainment value to it." And that's the thing. If you make that argument, in a sense, no movies are really worth it, but
Well,
we watch them, because it takes us out of the world for 2 or 3 or 4 hours.
but that also ends up being kind of the point of the struggle. Like, I mean, we all die. And in the case of John Wick, like, the third one plays with it a little, and you kind of go to see how that happens. But 4 is literally him playing with the ideal of how this is going to end. And it's not even in his head, it's everybody else, his friends along the way. And we get to kind of meet John's like actual friends. And for those who
Right,
have seen the fourth one, and obviously we're going to bounce around the franchise a little bit, as you haven't noticed, we this is the first time we see people who they are really friends, he's really friends with. Like everybody else, he's kind of known or has had a connection to, but not necessarily in the best vein.
right,
So by the time you get kind of to that point, you're like, okay, so everybody knows this guy, but because of his situation, but even more so, it's like, did anybody even like this guy? Like you kind of wonder, it's like, so he's just like, he's just kind of a dick. Like, what's the score here? And you get this amazing sequence in Osaka. And it is, I think it's amazing because it really starts to encapsulate, it foreshadows quite a bit, but it also encapsulates the ideal because as a moviegoer and even somebody who appreciates the franchise, you kind of know, not necessarily when it's losing steam, but you're kind of like, okay, they start talking about themselves in a meta sense. Like, one of the best meta points I thought was impressive was for Fast and Furious 9, where they start talking about, and it's almost obviously a joke, but they start talking about their own mortality because they've had so much shit happen to them and they're somehow alive, and then they go to space because that was something somebody put on the internet apparently. But certain movies and certain things like that, when they start bringing that full circle, that ideal, if you will, of how is this really going to end? Who knows how this is all going to play? And in the case of John Wick, and obviously he was never just one guy. In that world, he was literally fabled. Like, he was like Kaiser Sose of assassins, you know. But it does finally start to bring the foreboding thought of, how is this going to end? Like, you know, he sees a way to fight through it, and it's like you'll run out of bullets before they run out of guys. You know, that's an actual comment that I think gets made in the fourth one by, I think, Winston, Ian McShane, who's fantastic. But he very much, the whole, and it, you know, for some viewers it might be like, oh God, they're thinking what I'm saying. But you have a lot of this. Yeah, how is this going to play out? Like, does anybody really know how this is gonna end for him? Because in the third one, he gets shot off a rooftop and survives.
Yes.
Somehow.
There was an airbag that he fell onto that we didn't.
He fell on his keys.
Yes. Yes. And that, you know.
Yow! John
That
Wick.
was great when that was great when he was when he went to the doctor to get like stitched up, and he was like almost at the deadline for the excommunicado, and the guy's like, it like hits the time and the doctor just like stops. So he fucking takes over and starts like suturing himself up, and the doctor's like, you know, telling him. Then the doctor's like, the doctor was oh shit, what was that I loved? Where where he's telling him where to shoot him because they won't believe that he didn't help him or something. Just like telling him like, make sure not to like damage my collarbone, and he just cuts him off with a bullet. I love it.
Well, and that was funny. So one thing about this particular franchise too, the one thing about that, you know, when you have certain characters that kind of come around, or movies, projects, if you will. In the case of this, when they decided to go with Keanu, because in the original script, he was younger. Oh no, he was older. I take that back. Like, John Wick was supposed to be like Paul Newman. Like this, like he was supposed to be like in his 60s and 70s. And then when it started getting changed and adapted for the gun fu, the fight styles, if you will, when that all started coming into play, that's when the movie started to take shape, and that's when they started thinking about like Keanu. But a lot of people involved in this franchise as a whole, like in front of and behind the camera, is from the Matrix trilogy.
Except for the Wachowskis weren't involved, were they?
No, but you got like Lawrence Fishburne as the Bowery King,
who is I noticed
fantastic in the third movie, because they're like 7 bullets, 7 cuts, and he's like, well, sometimes you got to cut a motherfucker.
That was great.
That is such a great line, and and it was funny because when the first one came out, he ran into Keanu, and it was like, Lawrence Fishburne was like, "Hey, I would love to be in on this. It would be awesome if I could, if there was a role." And there was this back and forth, but he was serious, and they had already been working on the second one. And Keanu said, without a shadow of a doubt, he was like, "I knew who I wanted to cast him as. I know he wanted him to be the Bowery King, because you had this character that had this great behind the scenes type of almost regalness, even though he's kind of like in a slum, but he's like in charge of the slum of this underworld. So it's like, yeah, he's kind of the king of the rats, but he's still a king. So for Lawrence Fishburne to really give that character the gravitas that we know he does, because he's so great at what he does, just works so well. But in the third one, I love that bit. That is one of the fun. Yeah, 7 bullets equals 7 cuts. Well, sometimes you gotta cut a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he was just and of course, because Lawrence Fishburne is one of those actors, you cannot deny watching him, even if it seems. I mean, the man's been doing it so long and doing it well for so long, he'd probably do it in his sleep. But there is a lot of just so much gravitas, and he's very expounded in what he does, both vocally and his actions. But you cannot kill me. I am the Bowery. And there are very few actors who have that level of presence where it doesn't get dumb, where it's like, no, this guy means fucking business. Like, his position as quote unquote the Bowery King, if you will, is kind of this type of, it's something he holds dear. Because you see in the second one, going into 3 and 4, like, this is supposed to be a secret society of criminals, assassins. It ain't that secret. These motherfuckers are everywhere with their fucking gold coins and their little silencer pistols.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be secret. It's like, ain't no fucking secret. You guys are shooting each other in fucking broad daylight in some cases.
Pretty much. That's.
But the guy who played the Doctor in 3, he played the Keymaster in the second Matrix. So there was a lot of love there, and Keanu, like, people who have endured like him, it's not just about what he's able to do. It's also a case of who they surround themselves with.
Right.
Tom Cruise and Arnold Schwarzenegger are 2 particular cases that will tell you plain as day that, they went after the roles they did because of the people involved. It wasn't so much just that, well, yeah, I've got the talent, so I'm going to make it all sparkle. It was, I know to surround myself. Bing Crosby kind of had a quote about that, and this is, of course, paraphrasing, but he was very much, it's like, it's not that I'm great. It's just that I know how to surround myself with people who bring forward what I do.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And that was definitely no different. And Keanu as well. Like, when you look at, like, a perfect example, and this was on ID10T when the second John Wick came out, but he talked about getting his first real break in an action movie, which of course was Point Break.
Yeah, that's that. That's it.
And that's still a good one. Like, it's crazy to think how old that movie is, but it's still a good one. But
yeah,
what's so great about that movie is Catherine Bigelow truly fought for him.
Oh, because I'm sure they didn't want to cast him. Because,
Fox didn't. I mean, I'm not sure who else was looked at, but at the time, Keanu was more a part of movies. Nobody saw him as
Mm,
like the bigger whole yet, as like somebody you
right,
put on a movie poster and you put their name on a movie poster. Um, he was still kind of playing in the smaller role, independent role like Parenthood and stuff like that. Um, the first Bill and Ted, where 20th Century Fox at the time was like, you want to make this guy an action star, like you want to make this guy a toughie with a gun on screen and think the audience will buy it.
mm,
And Catherine Bigelow was the one who literally fought tooth and nail and said, "Oh, you don't understand. It's not. We can't get who we want. Like this is it." She knew from the jump. In her mind, it was like it's Keanu or nobody.
right.
That is how she felt about the situation from the word go, and definitely a lot of respect to her because 20th Century Fox was like, no, we don't. We do not want him. We do not think he's the guy. We do not think he's. We don't buy it. We don't think the audience will. It's kind of how it all came about. Well, she ended up obviously winning that fight, and it changed his career and the optics in his career because just a couple years after that, he did Speed,
Yes, Speed.
and
Wonderful. Love Speed.
I watched I watched Speed about a month ago,
Mhm.
and I can honestly tell you that it is a movie. So, you know, it was still in the aftermath of Die Hard, where you had Die Hard on a boat and Die Hard in a sporting event, or Die Hard in an airport, which was Die Hard 2. So
Yep.
you still played with a lot of that. Every studio, to include 20th Century Fox, who did the first Die Hard, was trying to replicate that success and kind of be on their own bandwagon. And Speed, now let's be clear.
Mhm.
It is definitely a product of its time
It
in the
is.
90s. And I remember seeing it like opening weekend
Mm-hmm.
and how much people
Same
loved it,
here.
how it was kind of a big deal. And I enjoyed it very much too. But it was also one of those kind of things. It was like, and I know some magazines joked about it too, was okay, so now we've got Die Hard in a bus. Are we gonna have Die Hard on a motorcycle next? Are we gonna have Die Hard, you know, in a McDonald's? And it was a product of that success because let's see, I'm trying to think what are the quote unquote, at least off the top of my head, that come to mind, Die Hard clones. Because I mean, in no time flat, I mean everybody was trying to find the next one because 1 and 2 came out like within a couple years of each other, and 2 is a serviceable sequel because it was very much a case of, okay, they're going to put him somewhere again, and they even joke about it. But and even in the further installments, like they joke about it too, where it's like the shit keeps fucking happening, and it's like, well, yeah, because the screenwriter said so.
Mm-hmm.
But it started, you know, it started losing its luster because once again, like, Die Hard in a plane, you had Passenger 57. So let's see. I'm gonna look up Die Hard clone movies because I mean, Speed was one of them, but
Right.
and it catapulted his career in such a way that he obviously got to do other projects and other things. But one thing that was really crazy was, for anybody out there who remembers Speed 2,
I wonder why he didn't. I always wondered why he didn't return for that.
so this is kind of as the story goes, if you will.
Hmm.
He he didn't he didn't care for the script. It's not something he wanted to really do.
Hmm.
And it really turned into a case of him kind of butting heads with the studio, and not intentionally, because they offered him. So for the first movie, he made, I think, like $2-3 million. Okay.
Right. Hmm.
Fox was willing to offer him like $12 million, and he said no. And he just felt he wanted something else at the time. He was grateful to have Speed under his belt, but obviously it gave him other opportunities to be in other things. And he didn't believe in the script. And it is kind of a weird one because they're stuck on a boat, and it doesn't make sense because in the first movie, the whole point was the bus couldn't stop. In the second movie, it's like, well, we have to get the boat to stop. And it's like, wait, didn't you kind of miss the point?
I've only seen Speed 2 once, so I don't even. I only saw it once in the theater. I don't even fucking remember.
I saw it once in the theater, and it ended up having like $120 million budget. Like, it ended up ballooning, obviously. And of course, you had some people come back, and obviously some people didn't. But there's a lot of fees buried into, and like in the case of like Sandra Bullock, like she made a mint coming back for that. The movie is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't even think it needed a sequel. Like, once again, because you notice they haven't tried making a Speed 3.
Although I've heard rumors that Keanu said he would do a third one with her.
God, what would that look like now?
I don't know.
Because they're both, he's 60 and she's like, I think she's 58.
Right.
So it's not a case of like just going back into it. Like, they've been in other movies together since then, like The Lake House. But this is literally a case of like, yeah, you want to get back on this bus? Like, what the hell? But okay, so here's some clones from Die
Mhm.
Hard.
Okay.
Sudden Death, which was Jean-Claude Van Damme, and that was actually in a sporting. It was a NHL final, and the vice president was watching it. You have Under Siege
Yes.
with Steven Seagal, which
Mhm.
is arguably his only really good movie. You have Passenger 57, which was
Right.
Wesley Snipes. I actually enjoy it. It's a fun romp. It knows not to take itself too seriously, and just has a good time. Like, that movie particularly, like, it's just a good time. Like, don't think
Right.
too hard. Don't try to make too much of it. Just go have fun.
Mhm.
Air Force One with Harrison Ford
Yes.
as the president. I want my family back.
I like that one. I did
Listen,
like it.
kid. Listen. You want me to be the president? That's fine. But I can tell you, I still want my family back. Should have had Walken do it. Wow. Well, yow. I'm president of the United States. I'm in charge. I'm in charge of it all. Look at me now. Olympus Has Fallen, which was kind of a take on that too, with Gerard Butler. It's kind of in that vein.
Saw that one.
The Rock,
Saw that one.
which I'll do my
it's
best.
yeah.
Your best. People who share, they do their best. Does nothing. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. It's like, great line. But when he turned down Speed 2, he and this was found later through like internal memos.
Right.
20th Century Fox had actually they had kind of pushed him away. It was a case of them not wanting to employ him. Like, he didn't make a movie with 20th Century Fox for like almost another 10 years when he did that remake of When the Earth Stood Still, or The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did do that. That was in 08. And yeah, Speed 2 was 97.
Yeah.
And
20th Century Fox made a point not to employ him.
Wow, they were
because
really
they were all butthurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Skyscraper is another one with The Rock. There's a movie with Daisy Ridley called Cleaner, which I kind of want to see, and that is another case of a Die Hard situation. But I think what people kind of forget, and today it had its 44th anniversary. If you want to talk about where Die Hard kind of came from, we have to talk about Escape from New York.
Yes,
we have to. That is fundamentally part of the fucking conversation, especially when it was the first real stab at sci-fi. You know, you had the 70s where you had like Silent Running, and you had Solid Green, and you had all these weird turns because the 70s was such a turbulent time, and you had all these weird turns in filmmaking, and you had these weird turns in all these things. And sci-fi was no different, you know, especially when we kind of look at sci-fi. It usually ends up being some kind of barometer of where we're at in our times. It's not always a fucking compliment, especially these fucking days.
Right.
But that was the first time where grounded sci-fi, and not in a good happy-go-lucky nature, had kind of come to pass, where it was like, oh, the future's not all bright and shiny and looks like Star Trek. Like, you know, some aspects of the future aren't going to be very good. It's not necessarily going to be something where people are like, ooh, it's like, yeah, you may not like where this is going to fucking go.
And, you know, the funny thing is, Escape from New York is one of the first times that I realized that Donald Pleasance has done movies aside from Halloween, and I was like, when I
because he was the president.
Mm-hmm. And when I heard he was in that, I'm like, oh my God, he's in it. And it's like the first time that I watched it, I remember I was sitting there and I was like, that's not the president, that's Loomis. Loomis is the president.
No, that was Blofeld.
Ah, yes, Blofeld.
That's who that fucking was. That was Blofeld. You know, 20th Century Fox like really pushed him aside. And then he made this movie, and he had made a couple other movies after that, but like his career, Keanu's career had kind of tapered off a little bit. And part of it was the Matrix trilogy, because as a trilogy, people don't take it into the best regard.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't help that you had an entire studio trying to not give this guy his due.
Right.
Which, of course, I'm like that. That was, it has been said, that with a lot of these people, they know each other in Hollywood, but they still have to be able to play together, even if they're not cast in a movie or they don't do a project or something. So it's kind of weird they would just try to pariah Keanu. And it's Keanu Reeves. Like, what did he do to deserve that? He said no to a fucking movie, and they turned around and were like, this bitch. And it's like, wow, 20th Century Fox, fuck you twice. But he was in a position, he was making smaller movies. He made Man of Tai Chi, which he co-directed. I saw it, I liked it. He had made also a couple of documentaries. One he worked on was called Side by Side, which was actually about it goes through some film festivals, and he talks to like Christopher Nolan. But the centerpiece of the documentary, or the ideal behind it, is and I want to say the documentary is about 15 years old.
Right.
Basically, it was that turning point where Hollywood was like, oh, so digital's going to be the new thing. And the documentary kind of delves into where you had digital soundboards and digital editing, where everything was starting to kind of translate to the laptop or the tablet and go in this direction where filmmakers would no longer be using part of their title as part of their craft, film, where it was like, oh yeah, we don't do film anymore. Like, who does film? Nobody does film. And it's a very unique kind of situation, because you're like, okay, so if people, because it's kind of like, well, okay, if people don't use film, then what? And now we obviously, a lot of movies are made in digital, a lot of shows are made in digital. That's why when you hear pressers about this is starting production, and then it comes out earlier in the year, and there used to be a time where you didn't really get to have that. And
Right.
the biggest reason is you had to develop film. A Panavision cartridge film, if you will, 35 millimeter, I think is like 10 minutes of film time.
Right. I believe.
And then you got to change, and then of course you got to change the cartridge. And then you have to develop it, so it takes like 3 days before, I mean, outside of like dailies, but that's playback. To actually see the film, as it were, like that takes 3 days. When now we're at digital, where digital is like, you don't have to worry about color timing. It does a lot of your sound for you. There is a great deal that the system within allows, as opposed to, oh yeah, we can't do this, or so on and so forth. So the documentary really delves into that, especially with a lot of filmmakers going, yeah, I know studios and producers and stuff want digital, but I think you and I know, and many people out there, and look, digital looks great. 4K HD looks wonderful. One of the best uses I've seen to date of upping, the print, if you will, or the movie, is the first Terminator. I have it on 4K, and it looks like a brand new fucking movie. And part of it is because I'm pretty sure, I think it's been said that Cameron oversees his films to 4K. He oversees that transition, and it looks spectacular. It almost doesn't even feel like a period piece. Like, it really looks very clean. And it's a great documentary, but it's a little sad because it's like, film has a certain look for a reason. Like, when I look at like the beauty of, let's put it this way, when I look at like the beauty of what film does, like to shoot on film, I look at Apocalypse Now. That cinematography, especially in many of the more dark lit scenes, is insane. And even if you use like a digital camera, you can't help but to kind of go, wow, there's not that type of technology there where you just point and click and go, okay, it's going to look like this now. Like, no, somebody had to like that. Somebody had to sit there and film it and literally be like, okay, this shit better look like what it's supposed to when we're done. And sure enough, I look at some of those movies and many movies, like the cinematography is such a big part for me. Like, here's a perfect example, and this still happens. When I find out there's like certain cinematographers on certain films, I get more excited for that than I do like the stars of the film. Like, I get like, oh, him, like, you know, I get more taken with that than I do the ideal of, you know, it's like, oh, well, Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt is in this, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's got Bill Pope as cinematographer, or it's got Dean Cundy as cinematographer. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like, that's just me. Where I'm like,
oh, I get it, totally.
Like you know, like Robert Richardson, like that man is a cinematographer. That man fucking amazing, like what he does. Roger Deakins, another one. You know, when you talk about people who bring something to life visually, what's his name? Greg Fraser, who did the 2 Dune movies and then the Batman with Robert Pattinson. Like, that is more of my type of like what draws me into the movies. You know, we don't have movie stars the way they used to because they're all over either fucking commercials or they're all over social media. So why get hyped for them? I see their work all the fucking time, or lack of work. Like, I just see, you know, in many cases, it's like, well, I just see people be famous to be famous. And it's like, well, I could give 2 fucks about all that shit, but show me like a visual craftsman who's been doing this for 30, 40 years. That's what I want to see. You know, all the other stuff, I'm like, yeah, sure. Whatever, Tom Cruise, that fucking running midget, that hey, yeah, okay. Yeah, keep running and laughing, motherfucker, whatever. But but for me, it's about the craft, like it always will be. That's why it's so heartbreaking when theaters are just shitty places to be and people think they're at their fucking house. And it's like, well, if you're going to act like that, fucking stay home. Yeah. But Keanu did a lot. I mean, he worked, but he hadn't been that name. Like, he was obviously still Keanu Reeves, but it had been a few years since he was Keanu. You know, and remember, before The Matrix, he was in a movie, The Devil's Advocate.
I still have to fucking watch that because I
haven't seen that fucking movie.
I have not seen The Devil's Advocate.
And it's got Al in it, goddammit.
I know. Down the street, there's this famous chicken. He's famous. There's this chicken. He's famous. And he plays checker. He never loses. All right. So we got this Keanu Reeves guy here. I'll kick him. And he's calling me to tell me to do this movie with him. Keanu Reeves actually took a pay cut to get Al Pacino. Really?
Because he was so dead set. Because he was supposed to make in the range of what he had made going forward with like the Matrix movies.
Mm-hmm.
But he was supposed. I think he was literally supposed to pull down like 10 or 12 million, and he took a pay cut so that could go to getting Al Pacino. That's right. I am the devil and the devil's advocate. I ain't got no horns. Did you see horns? Ain't no horns. She's got a great ass, and you got your head all the way up it. Ferocious, aren't I? Every time I think about a great ass. Could you imagine Al in the Matrix? Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
They want me to take this pill. And I found out it's not Cialis. I said no.
Do you really think he needs Cialis at this
If
point?
it isn't a dick pill, then I say fuck that pill. Dick pill and fuck pill. I need a dick pill so I can fuck. But I say fuck that pill. I don't know if he needed it, but he made a kid recently.
Yeah. He's a fertile myrtle over there, that guy.
And it's just and he's not the only one. And I know people judge and they're like, how dare he? And it is an unfortunate circumstance, sure. This kid's probably not going to get to know their father very well for several reasons. But that's how it happened. Like, what? Are you going to take the kid away? And it's like, oh, you need to know who your dad was because you're never going to really see him anyway. It's like, no, like, it happens. But he did a DNA test. I told you about that, but he did a DNA test. I want to make sure that some bitch is mine. I heard she was dating Walken. And I heard Walken just walks into the bedroom so he can fuck. Yow! That's right. I see here. This woman. Piece of ass. Tell her, get ready for it. Here it comes. Me too. I tell you right now. Could you imagine me in a porno? I say, oh no to porno. There's the clip. There's the clip. Oh no to porno. Oh my. Who had a soy milk? I wasn't planning on leaving the house today. But apparently, a trip to Trader Joe's in my future. Like I said, I still think Pine has one of the best ones because he goes under, not over.
Mm-hmm.
He goes the other way.
Right.
Because he does, on a subtle notion, like he does great. But he was on Corden, but he was like, so there's this lion, the king of the jungle. Big mane, big teeth, flowing hair. He's out there by himself in charge. And then some cubs come up and bite his ear. He doesn't like it. He's like, yow! He bit my ear. He goes more under when everybody, and me too, because, especially that commercial he made. It was Super Bowl, not this past one, but the previous one, the one that happened in Vegas, and the Chiefs won. But Walken did a BMW commercial. And the whole commercial, everybody he interacts with does an impression of him.
Mm-hmm.
He is, your coffee, Mr. Walken. Careful, it's hot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I still think there's an SNL skit where he does the Walken family reunion and they all have that hair that poofs up and dressed like him. And they're all like, hey, Christopher, what are you doing? And he's like, Aunt Margie, is that you? And they're like, Christopher, you look the same, like all of us. It's such a great bit because he's such obviously he's such a good sport about it, and that's to his credit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I'll have to look that up.
Marge, look at you. You look the same. You ain't changed one bit. Yow.
Oh my God.
But Keanu was not that anymore. And
Right.
then he does John Wick, the first one. See, there was a segue there. You were like, he just wants to keep doing the Pacino thing. And it's like, nah, I'm going somewhere with this. Just give it a second. But he didn't. He was looking for roles. Henry's Crime, that was one he did with James Caan. That's a good movie. It's kind of a cop kind of drama. It's actually kind of sad.
Crime.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
It's a good one. Smaller movie, didn't get a lot of exposure. Same with Street Kings, which he did with Chris Evans. But Wick was one of those movies where like he came in and it was kind of to help, his friends get this off the ground. Because when they cast him, it was like, okay, so this is going to be a go picture. Like, you got Keanu Reeves, of course we're doing this.
Right.
And it not just revitalized his career, but it gave him another case of this character that's attached kind of solely to him. Kind of like when you think of like, Indiana Jones. And with him being 60 and still like, oh, we're still going to try this. It's like, are you though? Like, good luck, man. But he made sure that if he was going to do this movie, John Wick, because it was originally called Scorched, and I guess the rumor is he couldn't remember the name. So when people asked him in interviews what the movie was called, he called it John Wick. So the studio went, well, fuck, just change the name. Which made sense because it's so centric. I mean, all four movies obviously are very centric to the character. And the fact that it is Keanu, it's like, well, what... For my money, it's like, well, what else were you going to call it? Scorched? That sounds like one of those fucking streaming movies with like Steven Dorff in it. It's like, I still have a career and I look like a pack of used cigarettes. It's like, Steven, stop it. You look like old leather came to life by wishing to be a real boy. Like, fucking knock it off, dude. Well, he was the one he was in Blade. He was Deacon Frost. But then he shit on like a bunch of Marvel stuff. And it's like, and it's funny because he tried to play the artistic bit where he's like, oh, well, artistically, it's not like this and it's not like that. And good old Marvel. And it's like, bitch, if they came to you to give you a fucking paycheck,
he'd fucking take it in a second.
You are so, yeah, for me, I'm like, you're so full of fucking shit. Especially when you see the straight to streaming pieces of turd he fucking makes. And it's like, oh yeah, good. Yeah, another cop movie in the middle of fucking Missouri. Yeah, that's artistic, right, dude? Good good job. Yeah, for my money, when I heard that, he was like trying to prop that up, like, oh well, yeah, it's artistically not up there with the shit I do. When it's like operative term, shit you do. You are absolutely fucking right, my friend. Yeah.
Oh, and I looked up Henry's Crime. It's on Tubi.
It's good. I've seen it twice, and it's a solid kind of cop drama. It's very grounded, so it's not like happy-go-lucky.
Right.
And it's not exactly like fucking Requiem for a Dream, but it's not uplifting. Like, don't watch it and then leave the house like, oh, the world is saved, like everything's great. And it's like, if you're getting that message from that movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is so great. Like, we were reminded of how amazing he was and how much he threw himself into this role. And we're now kind of at this point when you look at all the movies, and obviously we've talked about the movies a bit, but I look at it in talking about kind of the impact, because it has had quite the cultural impact, even though it started as like a cult movie first and foremost. But what's so kind of tricky about it is, like many of these type of franchises, they pulled movies there that may not have been there, and now you're kind of at this. Okay, so you brought out Ballerina, which wasn't bad, and I'll get into that a
I
little
was
more. Where
I was gonna watch it, but I have not yet.
I would watch it. Okay, if you enjoy aspects of watching that world,
Mhm.
not necessarily John himself, but
Right.
aspects of that world, it's worth it. It's kind of a side quest movie. It's kind of John Wick filler, if you will.
Right.
So when you watch it, it's like, yeah, that's great, but you're not exactly going to go. You're not going to watch it and go, oh fuck, this defined the franchise. Like I need Ballerina 16 already.
It's not 3 hours, is it? Please tell me that it's not 3 hours, because
It is it okay, so it's not 3 hours.
okay, good, good,
And
good.
and I can tell you right now, and once again they've brought some great casting together. Like Gabriel Byrne's in it, and he's great because
Hmm,
that motherfucker's always just been solid, no matter what he does.
right. Mhm.
Same kind of goes for Norman Reedus. Like that, like this movie too has quite a great cast, and obviously it's got John Wick in it. Um, because
So
they
he's
had
not
to anchor
dead.
this, huh?
So he's not dead then, if he's in it.
No. So this being kind of a side quest movie, I guess the best way to put it.
And it
So
takes place after 4, correct?
it takes place between 3 and 4.
Oh, so then that's why he's alive. Shit.
Exactly. But you see part of the disconnect, right?
Yeah, I mean, but that's why they shoehorned him in to kind of make people think, well, maybe he is alive. I
Well,
why did
they
he turn
shoehorned
into
him in
Frankie?
because he's got two cameo points, one in the beginning and one at the end. And at the
Right.
end of the day, if you don't if you don't have him in it, nobody'd
Mm,
be the wiser.
right.
Nobody would sit there because it's a very standardized revenge tale. Parents get killed, she grows up, she wants some fucking payback.
Mhm.
And it it becomes very it becomes this case of, like, for my money, like I watch it and I saw it in the theater.
Mhm.
I had a good time with it. Did I think it was great? No.
Right.
Do I think it was worth my money to go see at the theater? For one time, sure, I'll run with that.
Mhm.
But it is very much Anna de Armas's movie, and she's great. Like, she's pulling out all the stops. You can tell she's there to kick some ass and take some names, and she does. But
Mhm.
the trick for me is that, and we talked this a little bit about this on our little conversations when you were watching them, was you've created a world, but
Mhm.
you haven't really given real rules. because there's a lot of back and forth in the first 4 movies where things get kind of turned in his favor so that he can keep going. And you don't get introduced to like the high table, and you don't get a real concrete kind of answer on how all their stuff is supposed to work.
Mm.
It really doesn't. Like, there's this back and forth, and there's markers, and of course, Ian McShane, Jonathan, who's fantastic, but but you have a lot of this. You have a lot of this back and forth of trying to justify itself, the movie. It's kind of like the Bourne Legacy, where they had Jeremy Renner kind of fill in, but he was a different character for Jason Bourne. So it's still in that world, but it's not with Jason Bourne. And that's kind of what happens here, where you're trying to give this story some type of credence, if you will, and you're shoehorning in these characters. You're trying to make this all a part of a world that's already been far established. But one thing that doesn't help is the script, at least in my opinion, is very standard. Once again, she grows up, coming off of her family dying and wants revenge and stuff. And that's really where the rubber meets the road with John Wick, and it separates from the road with Ballerina. And here's why. Because people are like, well, he was getting revenge for his dog. He was getting revenge for this and that. Now, the truth, at least the way I see it with John Wick, especially the first 2 movies, is John and John Wick are 2 different people. John is a person. John Wick is of that world as Baba Yaga. What they took from him wasn't a car, and it wasn't a dog. It was him having his humanity reinstituted after his wife died. And if you take away somebody's, it was like taking away his soul. If you take away somebody's soul, what do they have left? And especially the fact that he was an actual assassin. So the fact that he regained his humanity and then lost it as it was stripped is very, I think it's a very almost relatable. I mean, somebody kills a dog or like a cat, it's like, I will fuck you up. Some people better be laid the fuck out over this shit. It's tricky because you look at her and you see it one way, and then you look at him and you can't help but to see a glaring difference. And it has nothing to do with, well, that's Keanu Reeves and that's Ana de Armas. It's very much a case of, well, yeah, of course people are going to get revenge. That's a given. But this is a guy who lost his humanity. He lost his reasons to be tethered in peace because he got out of this life, lost his wife, and then now he's back at his old tricks. And it's like it's the breakdown of humanity, also with him being in this world where it's like, well, you're not going to fucking disrespect me. But from the first movie, when he goes to the bar in the Continental and he kind of, gets told, he's there to kind of exact justice and take that piece of it back in some way. But one thing you got to think about that's really tricky with the whole situation is when he talks about getting to do his thing and getting to just go in, kill this kid, and get out, he's very nonchalant. He's like, I'm just visiting, like, this don't have anything to do with me anymore. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not part of this. You know, like that's not a thing anymore. Like, I'm gone. I'm not that guy. I'm just here because this happened, and I gotta fucking show this young bastard, what how this world works, if you will.
Right.
Then he gets it, and that world kind of refuses to let him go again. And for me, I can't help but to kind of look at it, and it's like, John is his own worst enemy in a lot of ways. But I think that's something we all struggle with, because if we don't want to be stuck with something or someone or some kind of thing, we push back against it. And that's kind of what he did after. I mean, it kind of carries over obviously to 2, 3, and 4, but that's kind of where it's like, just wanting to be free, like regaining his humanity based on what has happened. In the case of Ballerina, we don't get that. It is a classic case of people really trying to, and when I say people, filmmakers, those behind it, they want their cake and eat it too. It's like, we want an offshoot because this is going to be a way to carry over without John Wick, but I haven't seen anything where it works without him. Like, they did a limited series called The Continental, and if you want the world to survive, you have to be able to establish it. Once again, it's like they've established this world in bits and pieces, but they haven't really gotten there. And Ballerina is not the way there. And not because she's bad. It's more the script, number one. And number two, like, I knew after a while it was going to get super indulgent to the whole world of John Wick thing, because he shows up in the third act and he honestly doesn't need to be there.
Right.
Especially when it's supposed to be her quest. Like, yes, John had help throughout all the movies, but he didn't have the title character just show up and like kind of verify, if not validate, oh yeah, this is why this is here. Like, we have this main character, but it's still kind of Keanu show. And for me, I don't know if I would have had him do any cameos.
And you know what? Wait a minute. I just thought of something. And tell me, maybe I'm missing something. But you said Ballerina takes place between 3 and 4, right?
Correct.
Now, I was under the impression, and again, I could be wrong because I often am. It seemed to me like 4 picked up kind of like right after 3. So it didn't seem like there was a lot of time in between 3 and 4, if any at all.
That's a good point. And the reason why I say that is because, how do I put it? We know in 3, the manhunt is on. Yes. And then between 3 and 4, and this is where it starts to turn for me, they give him a pass, because in the final act, the third act, they basically bring him in to go after her. Now, he was on the run, but they give him a timeout from all his shit to go after her. And it's like, No. Like, that didn't make sense for me. That was very much a case of like, okay, so let me get this straight. People want this guy's head. It's like $20 million or something like that to go after this bastard. And then you turn around and go, nah, we're good. We're good. And it's like, that's not how that's not really how that's supposed to play. Because and once again, it kind of goes back to, yeah, it's supposed to be her journey. And then you kind of turn it on itself because now you bring him into it. And it almost makes like a sexist statement. It's like, it's her journey and she's a strong female. Yeah, but you got to bring in a guy to help her, huh? And it's like, you know, you want to look at the Yas Queen slay side of it, but then it's like, is she really slaying? Like, is she really? And that's why a lot of it doesn't work. Like, it's a case of trying to validate a reason to keep this world going, because they know there's money in it. Like, there's profit to be made, as they say on The Simpsons. But you know, if Keanu maybe started this in his 40s, you'd have 20 years of mileage. But he didn't. Like, this ended up being kind of an upend in his career, kind of reminding all of us, it's like, oh fuck, he's back. Like, that's awesome. And Ballerina is one of those movies, like, okay, here's what Ballerina kind of reminds me of when you think of it as a whole.
Okay.
Do you remember? Because ABC did this like when we were kids, like 85, 86.
Right.
And they made those made-for-TV Star Wars movies with, like, the Ewoks, like Wilford Brimley and stuff.
Yes.
That's what this kind of feels like, where it's like, yes, it's a side quest, but it is not. It's not bigger of the whole, where a lot of people might think it is. Where it's like, oh, so this is it, huh? And it's like, yeah, it's part of that world, but if you don't establish it, it doesn't connect the same way. And in the case of those movies, like, yes, you established it, but remember, they all really take place on Endor, so they don't have to build a ton of sets. You know, it's very much like the surrogate side of those universes. And Ballerina, you know, you get the Continental and you get all the, oh, hey, it's him, and that's all great. But to think it's like a substantial part of this as the whole, if you will, it's like, no, that's not there, guys. It's just not. You know, people want it to be, but it's not.
Now I want to watch the Ewok movies again. God damn it, because I haven't seen them since I was a child.
Those were fun.
And I'm ready to go back. I love
those were so fun, and you know, I remember they were ABC, and they were like the Sunday night feature. Like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and it was like, oh, that's cool. And I remember like the Ewoks cartoon, and I remember how do I put it? I remember it feeling grand because we knew it was related to Star Wars. But it was like, okay, we're obviously not getting Luke Skywalker, and we're not getting this, and we're not getting that. And it's like, well, yeah, you're not going to get that.
Right.
Like, that's just not gonna happen. And all that was very much a case of, that's not what they were. Like, they were meant to be offshoots, kind of on their own, and that's not a bad thing if you know how to world build from the jump. But we've seen with a lot of the John Wick stuff where, like, they world build and then they bring it back. They're like, nope, that's not. No, that's not how that works. That's not a thing.
Right.
And for me, like, that one plays like fan fiction because it is very much a case of, okay, she's has a similar quest of John, because the few scenes they do have, they're meant to make her and him relatable, because he's already on the run from, the Hogwarts school of assassins and firearms, and which is kind of what it feels like. But her, you never feel that humanity shift. Like, yes, of course, it was traumatic that she lost him the way she did to that world. And then, of course, she has to turn around and, have that moment where it's like, oh, well, yeah, I got to show these guys what forth. But it's just not there. She's not Keanu Reeves. She's not supposed to be. But you have to make the story impactful. The idea that you were just going to make this just a thing where it's like, oh, you want some of this world? Here you go. And it's like, and I think one thing that doesn't help the movie, in my opinion, about where it sits within the John Wick franchise or world of John Wick, whatever you want to fucking call it, is the fact that it's come after the fourth movie where he's apparently dead, and you're shoehorning it to kind of bring her in and make her kind of pick up the torch. And it's like, yeah, we don't need her to pick up the torch. Once again, it was all bad, but it's like, we don't need her to pick up the torch. It's okay.
Yeah, just end it. We're good. We're good. I'm fine.
Well, if you're
the end,
if you're going to stay in that world, you have to keep it that world. But John Wick and Keanu is integral to all of that. They've made them inseparable.
Right. Yeah, they definitely did. And that's the thing. At the end of that fourth movie, like, when he's on the fucking steps and he sees his wife there like that, and he says about, like, it being heaven. Dude, I will tell you, I lost it.
Oh yeah.
I lost it. I really, like, and like when he just, like, dropped, like, to the side on the steps, I'm like, he's not dead.
Yep.
He's not. And then to see Winston at the grave of the wife, and then, he was right next to her, which, that was weird to me in itself. Because wouldn't you think, like, don't they have it where there's multiple bodies in a grave? So wouldn't you think that, like, he'd be on top of her since she died first, and then they just throw him in on top?
In theory.
It's weird that I thought of that, but I did. But it's just, I'm just like, this is really fucking, like, a bummer. I was like, you know what? I almost wanted to, like, with the way that it ended, I almost felt bad.
Yes.
That I didn't enjoy it more.
Well, and that 4 really, once again, like, it kind of projects the ending. You kind of get that, oh, we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna see in theory where this is all gonna go. And that was part of the tricky part, where because three almost feels like filler, especially with so many fetch quests, and then nothing changes. You
Right.
know, um, so with 4, there is a massive ton of trying to get to the end and knowing where the end's probably going to lead. But that's what hurts. That's what hurts Ballerina, in my opinion, is the fact that it's like, oh, you want to, you it. Here's what it kind of reminded me of, and I know this is going to be like a weird comparison, but it actually, I think it makes sense. So you had John die, technically,
Right.
but yes, you shoehorn him into an adventure that takes place before the 4th movie. It's in between 3 and 4. But it reminded me of Tobin Bell with the Saw series, where
No,
it's like
I
you
can
want
see
to,
that.
yeah, well, and it's unfortunate not to, because you're like, wait a minute. So yes, we want to make sure we keep John Wick, that character, solvent. And this is
Mm,
just one movie. But in the case of Saw, it's like, so you kill him off in the 3rd one, and then you make like 5 more movies based around him after we all know
yeah.
he's like stone cold fucking dead.
Yeah, that's another one that's just like I don't know, and that's why I hate to say it, but I think Blumhouse made a mistake because I just think that we can let Saw look, and I'm not saying I hate Saw, but there
I,
comes a point. It's not Michael Myers or
I
Jason
will,
Voorhees. It's
exactly. It's
you
not
know
supernatural.
right.
You know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for Jigsaw 90210
Oh
starring
my
Tobin
god,
Bell as a teenager somehow.
dude, could you imagine them de-aging him that much?
And he's in his
He's
80s.
81 or 82, right? He's like 81 or 82 right now. How the hell would he look de-aged to be a teenager? I almost want to try to do that myself if I can.
He would look weird. He would look like a look like a sex doll version of himself from Timu. Like it would just be all smooth and fucking weird, and it's like I don't want to look at that. But
hold on, because you segued me here. You
okay,
segued me here, and I was trying to think. Okay, how am I going to fit this in? But I talked to you about really awkward like scenes in films. So I watched a film called Happiness. Criterion just released this on 4K, so Barnes and Noble has the 50% off Criterion sale for this month. So I grabbed it because I wanted to see it. Oh boy, did I not realize what I was getting myself into. I read reviews, and the director Todd Solange, I believe his name is. You said that he did Welcome to the Dollhouse.
which I love.
Well, yeah, and now I have to watch it because this movie explores the lives of some really, really, really deeply disturbed people. And Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this film. And he plays a character that I don't think I've ever seen depicted in a film this way. So we're gonna play this scene. It's 2 minutes, but it's worth it. Sensitive viewers, you may want to turn away, or you can't even mute your sound because there's something that happens at the end of it that holy shit. Again, I can't believe it's on YouTube, but since somebody posted it on YouTube, I don't think we're gonna get flagged for it. But yeah,
Well, now
it's
that you've
it's
said it, you've jinxed it, and you will.
hopefully not. But all right, so basically the thing is, Philip Seymour Hoffman plays this loner guy, and he literally just calls people. Like he'll just call random numbers, and if they're women, he'll talk to them. So here's this scene. You might be a different person after watching this, but here it is.
Um, how are you?
Is this Damien?
Yeah. How you doing?
Oh, fine. Trish told me you might be calling.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I know how weird these things can be, but, I've always had such faith in Trish's judgment. I just thought, why not? It's not like I have a huge social life. I mean, I do have a social life, it's just not huge.
same here.
Really? That's so nice to hear. I mean, most people seem so confident.
Yeah.
Or they're just real jerks.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to thaw this steak, and it's so hard, and I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't stop. Not because of me.
Well, it's just I feel I'm being so rude.
No, not at all.
Well, thanks.
Are you alone?
Yeah, I'm all alone. Nobody's listening in. Don't worry. God, you're just like me.
What are you wearing?
You mean when we go out? Where do you want to go? I mean, I'm pretty easy to please. I hate getting all dressed up.
What are you wearing now?
Just a pair of jeans, why?
Are they tight?
Not too tight. Actually, they fit pretty good. But why do you want to know
Not the jeans, underneath. What are you wearing underneath? Check.
underneath? Well, the Damien underneath is...
Pound it.
Oh, this isn't Damien, is it?
Are you all wet? Is your pussy all wet?
Yes.
See,
He spilled his vanilla milkshake.
when I saw that, I had to rewind it. I was like, did I just see what I think
You
I
should-
saw? And I'm like, you
Good
did.
old-fashioned jizz.
And the scene continues. I cut the end of it out. He gets like a piece of like a nat like those things that they put in TV Guide or the magazine things that you would like the cardboard things.
Yeah.
He gets a fucking cardboard thing like that, and he scrapes it off the wall.
Well, he's got to get that. Okay, look, he didn't have to necessarily do that unless he was going to put a poster there, and then he didn't need thumbtacks.
No, he did. No, he did put a picture there that he like stuck to it.
Yes. Ah, it's so great.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know if you saw that movie, but
It's pretty familiar. I think I've seen it once or twice. It's been a very long time.
listen,
And this is one of those
I mean-
movies too where people are like, "Oh yeah, I love this movie and I never want to see it again."
that's the thing. I thought it was one of the best movies I've ever watched. I really, but some of the characters and like are just so just cringe. Like there's like a his okay, so the person that plays his shrink in the movie turns out to be a pedophile. And it's a whole thing where you see him try to go with other kids, and he's having conversations with his son about masturbating, and I'm like, wow, this is really heavy shit.
Yes.
I'm like, and I mean, the guy likes to do awkward from what I can tell, and this is awkward, very awkward.
So it makes me wonder. It's like, okay, so did they use like some type of substance, or is that real? Like,
Yeah, I don't know, and I
I'm looking
wonder.
it up. I'm trying to find out. And I don't want to type it in Google because then it's going to be like, hey, like, no, 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 I don't want to see that.
Yeah, yeah, that's all you'll get. That's all they'll fucking show you. Oh
So,
my.
so this movie,
Uh-huh.
so Sundance apparently, so it was entered into Sundance, like, as expected,
Right.
because it's definitely in that wheelhouse. But
Mhm.
they apparently didn't want to screen it. Like, they refused to screen this movie.
That doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me one bit.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I've seen it once.
Yeah,
Um,
it's once is enough for me. Actually, he does do a commentary on the disc, and I'm kind of curious to hear his commentary on it. Like I said, and I think I said it off air, but I'm kind of curious to see if I can get him to come on here because I would really like to I really would like to pick his brain about why, like what what like
and you do realize, there's no genteel way to do
mhm,
it. But if he came
right.
on here, I'd be like, look, Todd, let's cut to the fucking chase, bro. Whose spunk is that?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, dude? I would be like, go for it. And if he leaves and disconnects, then so be it. But it's like, dude, inquiring minds want to know.
This isn't Dylan, is it? Ah!
Like, we need to know. Because it looked pretty realistic. That's why I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
That,
that did not look. They fake blood and they fake bone and teeth and like
mhm,
brain matter and flesh, but
yeah.
jizz.
Hmm.
I hate to say it, but jizz is one of those materials.
Hmm. I don't know if he can fake that.
Well, it also begs another question where it's like, okay, if it was real spunk, like what
Yeah.
happened if you had to do multiple takes?
Right. Yeah, it's like you only get one
Do you
unless.
wait for the actor to get fueled again, or stunt cock, like the next one comes through
Yeah.
and
Right. Or do you just have him save it up for a couple of days and then just take
you
one?
have
Oh shit, you
he
missed
had
the
to
mark.
change his whole shooting schedule
Yeah. Yeah.
because he was
Take
like,
one.
oh, I gotta film the money shot again. Like, how do people in porn do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where's my fluffer?
Yeah, exactly.
It's oh my god. It's oh yeah, we need another take on that. You didn't it's supposed to land here, you shot it there, the camera can't pick it up, so we need to do it again and again and again.
Or
I
what happens if they miss and hit the camera?
um dude, if whatever place they were renting the camera from knew that that happened, they would never want it back.
No, they probably wouldn't.
They would never want it back.
Yeah, could
They
you
would
imagine that?
be like, "Nope."
Hey, what's this? What's this in the camera here? You're not getting your deposit back. It's like, nope, somebody
Yeah.
deposited nut on your fucking camera. That's what happened.
Mhm. Mhm. That's insane. That
Yeah.
is insane.
Well, and as you know, movies, this being one of them,
Mhm.
impact is such a range. Because there are people who will watch certain movies that everybody loves and go, "This is a piece of shit," like Sinners, and
Mhm.
and and I think the valid case is there because number one, it's art. Like, it's not going to register with everybody. But I
Right.
think one thing for me, especially when it comes to the topic of the movie, I can't even look at it from the movie sense. And part of that is because Hollywood really, really played with its own dick on this one. Like, they really
Mhm.
fucking tried to really rub one out about this.
Right.
And it's kind of unique to me because yes, it's very good. A lot of it's very well done, masterfully done. But then, and I agree, another side of it is, it is very overdone in a lot of ways. It feels
Mhm.
very disconjoined, and I get why it would feel disconjoined to many people. Not to mention, Hollywood really, like, it's on Max now, but like the ideal that somebody is like, ooh la la, like, yummy, like, hey, this is it, right? This is, and it's like, no, this is not it. There is definitely more. There is definitely more than just this, and it should helpfully be. Uh, it should be an inspiration. It should really tell people, like, yeah, you don't, like, not all movies are not all movies are of that sense where it has to be. How do I put it? It not every movie has to be like an event and of itself, especially when they. I gotta be honest, like, I don't even feel bad for like the hate that it gets or people who just don't care for it. I'm very much like, guys, like, yeah, I'm glad you're happy with it and it did well. It didn't make like this blockbuster amount of money, but
They're already planning a sequel. I think it's already got a release date.
well, and it's funny because apparently what's his name didn't plan for a sequel. And
Uh, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't
well, to
either.
be fair, I mean, if the money's there,
I mean, yeah, they're gonna do it. That's, you know.
if the money is there, then it's going to happen.
Mhm.
You and I both know that deep down it's like, okay, well, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, it's like, yeah, you might have left some room for you might have left some room somewhere, and obviously it's more towards the end with Buddy Guy. I love that Buddy Guy was in it, but
Mhm.
you don't need one. They'll probably try to retcon something if they did. I just don't see the need that they would need to kind of go that route. It's ridiculous to think that, oh well, now we have a sinner, we have to have a sinnerers, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
You really don't, guys. Like it's not that big a deal as you think. Like there's definitely a way to just let it be. Most movies, and I think this
Mhm.
definitely goes within John Wick because it was never planned to be any more than just one movie. And
Right.
and the Hollywood types get kind of caught up in the successes where it gets turned in to this. Now, granted, I'm glad there was never a pitch for a sequel for Happiness, but apparently there was a sequel, and it was 11 years later, but the whole movie was completely recast, and I think that was intentional.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's called,
Now
I
I'm
just
gonna
looked
have
it
to
up
watch
on
this.
IMDb, but yeah, it is called, it's called Something in Wartime.
Something in wartime. Does that Todd direct it again or whatever? And
He does. It is a sequel, like it was meant intentionally to be a sequel.
mhm. Hmm. I may have to look into that. Just to, I'm a glutton for punishment. Yes, I'll go back into the. Oh my god.
Yeah, this fucking movie. And a lot of people have the exact same take.
Really? Hmm.
Yes, where they're like, yep. They're like, I wouldn't. Oh, here it is. In 2009, 11 years after this film's release, Todd Souls, yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Life During Wartime, which is a sequel to this film. However, every returning character in the sequel was played by a different actor.
Hmm. Wow. I think just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna have to watch it.
I kind of want to see Happiness again. Like I said, I hadn't seen it in a long time. I remember it being one of those movies that threw me for a loop. And it was part of that independent scene coming up because and let's put it in this perspective. Like the ideal that it didn't play at Sundance when
Right.
Sundance, I mean, you had many movies and careers made in Sundance. But this is
Mm.
the kind of movie you would think would play at Sundance, and they said no, which says something,
Mhm.
in my opinion. Like it really makes a case of like, what do you mean you didn't? This is right for Sundance.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean that's wow. I'm just gonna say if you do decide to take the plunge and watch it again,
probably will.
as soon as it's over, have have clerks or something ready to go so you can wash the taste
Oh yeah, this is not.
of that.
Yeah, this is like if you went in the other direction. This would be like if you watched like this would be like if you watch Monsters Inc. and then watch this, where you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 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 because like, oh, oh my god. Oh, or after this, or if you do watch that, after that, watch Sam and Maddie make a zombie movie. That is one of the I mean, oh,
I don't think I've ever seen that.
it's a documentary about two kids with Down syndrome who get together and decide to make a zombie movie. It is something else, let me tell you. Let me tell you, something else. But totally palate cleanser after happiness or something. You need a cleanser after that. I felt like taking a shower after I watched that movie because I was like dirty just for watching it.
Well, I kind of felt so. It's funny you mentioned this because this kind of brings up a situation that happened. So this happened. I want to say this was like at least a good year or so ago,
Mhm.
where it was like a Saturday morning, and it had been another long week, but it was like, okay, here we are. It's Saturday,
Mhm.
and I finally had a chance to watch Mandy with Nicolas Cage
Ah,
and watch it through. Like I had seen it sporadically, like it was on, and then for whatever reason I didn't lock in, so it was like, okay, I'm fucking watching this thing, and I fucking love the movie and I own it. Well, Steph is like sitting there, and it's like early, so it's like the brain isn't ready to process a bunch of shit yet, and she's like,
right.
"What is this?" And I'm like, "This is Mandy." And it was one of those that, like, when you talk about like a palate cleanser, but also in the sense of some movies are not just like first thing in the morning. It's like, it would be like, oh, let's have a relaxing day. I mean, unless you're that kind of person, but like, hey, let's have a relaxing day, and then you turn around and you go, oh yeah, let's have Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. That's
And
that was something.
and it's hilarious to me that clip is actually on YouTube.
Oh, without a doubt.
With
Yeah,
that,
that's mhm.
yeah, that's. I mean, there were other things on YouTube where you're like, what the hell? But this is very much a case of like, what? What do
Dude,
you?
and that's what I'm saying. The full 2 hour and 20-minute movie is on there. I actually cut that clip from the movie. Like the movie's on YouTube. I couldn't find the clip, but I saw the whole movie. So I just scanned the movie and I remembered the part and I was like, there we go. Because after I watched it, I said, I'm bringing this up on the show because Theo needs to see this. I said, if Theo hasn't seen this, he needs to see this. This is so just awkward and uncomfortable. I need to get his take on this. It's insane.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, from what I remember, and that was during a time like I was working at Radio Free Hawaii, and I had started getting into like more independent movies, like Chasing Amy and this and Train Spotting. That was
Yeah.
right at the sweet spot, just on the way up, but still right
Mhm.
there with
Right.
Miramax and all these titles that they had kind of like. There was a time, it's funny how independent movies are like, well, we're independent. And it's like, well, yeah, they still got to be released so people can watch the fucking things.
Right.
And Miramax was like the perfect example of a studio that somehow was able to crack that code.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was kind of nice. And once again, I hate to give some form of recognition to the Weinsteins, but they knew how to market this stuff. They knew how to get the talent
Mhm.
and make some very interesting stuff. Part of the issue was though is that and I can kind of see this for some people's, especially if
Mhm.
you didn't want to deal with him, what the hell's his name? Harvey
I think it
Weinstein
was
or the
Harvey. That
Weinsteins.
was, yeah, Harvey was the bad one. Yeah.
But I wonder if it ever felt like the McDonald's. Like we talk about like how other studios were trying this too, but Miramax was owned by Disney, but Miramax really was its own entity. Like, yeah, Disney bought, an art house picture studio, film company, but they really let the Weinsteins, as they say now, they really let them cook. Like it was like if they're doing it, they're doing it. And that was probably like to their detriment. Like Disney kind of seemingly let them just do whatever they're going to do.
Right.
Which isn't a bad thing. But I also think of it as like, well, if you don't have anywhere else to go, then you either have to really go, because you had also Artisan Pictures, or what was their name? Artisan Entertainment. You had some other ones out there, because Artisan is the ones that did Blair Witch, was released through Blair Witch and Live Entertainment. So you had options, but it was always, a lot of it piggybacked to Miramax and the Weinsteins. So it was quite a time for independent film, and that's really when Sundance started picking up a lot of steam and started getting a ton of exposure. And that exposure kind of played both ways. And you also got to think of now and I almost feel bad for them, almost. That they decided to move from Utah. And it was funny because you have a lot of people in Park City who are like, well, you bring all these people and it's a pain in the ass. But then they bring money, and that brings dollars, and that helps the state. But they made a bid, like they were like, oh yeah, Sundance isn't going anywhere. Sundance isn't going anywhere. Well, guess what? Utah lost that bit, and guess what? Sundance is fucking totally going somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're going to Boulder, Colorado.
Oh shit.
Yeah. There was talk that they were going to go to Cleveland or like Ohio. I think, and this is definitely not to put any kind of political spin on this show or this. This is like a piece of public record. So this is just me saying what I'm saying. There were bills passed in this state that had banned, flags of the LBGQ. I try to keep that acronym together as best as possible, but they keep adding letters, so I have trouble keeping track of what the proper pronunciation is. Not to sound like an old fuck, but it's like, how many genders are you gonna fit into an acronym?
Right. Exactly.
You're kind of pushing it. Like, I'm all for what you do and be happy because life is short and it's just a fucking ride. But, also know that, if I'm not calling them what they were supposed to be called and I don't get it right, help me, because there's a lot of fucking letters now, and the keeping up part, it's getting to be a bit much.
Yes.
And it's not that I'm not supportive, it's just that fucking you got to spell it out. That's all I fucking ask.
Yes.
But in this state, they had passed some laws banning flags, supporting, gay, lesbian, queer communities. And, entertainment and politics, as much as you don't want them to go hand in hand, they do go hand in hand, and they always will.
Yes.
It didn't sit well with Sundance as a corporation. And now Utah, because those politics played a part in them, and what's her name's leaving. Utah is now looking at doing like a new festival here and stuff like that, because Sundance is named for the area.
Right.
So it is very much a case of, oh, so you need to, it now Utah feels the need to respond, where it's like, it's almost like Bender and Futurama. Like, I'm gonna have my own. I'm gonna have my own. What is it? Yeah, I'm gonna have my own movie festival with blackjack and hookers. And I hate to say it, but I just do not feel bad. I don't feel bad for the state. Like, that's an extra $150 million going out the door.
Right.
Each year. And remember, it was an annual film festival, so it was like clockwork. Where it was like, oh, there goes that money. Yep, there goes that money. And, now we have kind of like A24, and we have Neon, which are kind of like these independent staples, but they're in the limelight because now nothing exists if you don't put it on a social media platform.
Right.
So to kind of look at independent film now, it's tricky because you look at streaming and it's like, they have Shudder and they have IFC, and then of course A24. So, I mean, independent film will never go anywhere. I think it's vital to have independent film for things to survive.
I agree.
But I'm also very well aware of the fact that you don't get there without having a platform, or not a platform, but having a place for it. And there's a ton of film festivals now. But when it came to the ideal of independent film, and I think that's the best way to put it, like, you think independent film, right out the gate, you think Sundance. And Sundance and Utah were quite synonymous for a long time. So now it begs the question of, like, what's that going to look like in another state? Because they're gonna keep calling it Sundance. That's the name.
So they are gonna keep the name.
Well, they kind of have to. It's kind of like the name on the box.
Oh, I thought that somebody would raise a stink if they kept the name the same.
No. Well, it's incorporated. Like, they can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's part of a bigger business model. It's corporate. Like, they can't just. I mean, they can change it, but they're not just going to change it just because some slack-jawed boomer asshole in Park City is all pooty hurt now, regardless of how much money he has. It's like, no. Our name, Sundance, as a fairly high mark in reference to independent film, is very much connected to that name. I don't see the thought that they're gonna pull the plug on that. I don't see that.
Right.
And I just don't think that's. Like, it's not in their best interest. Like, yeah, you want to change the name, great. But how do you promote that?
True.
Yeah. Hey, we're the what do you want to call? What do they call it? We're the film festival formerly known as Sundance.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do you push that?
Exactly.
How do you make that? How do you make that distinction? And they talked about the Ohio thing, and they ended up in Colorado, so they didn't move it far.
Right.
Because from here to get to like Colorado is like 7 hours by car.
Oh, shit.
So you're not that far away. So there's still some identity of like the area, but I mean, you look at like Clerks and Sex Lies and Videotape, like, Sundance made them possible. Kevin Smith literally has an entire career because he was able to bring Clerks to Sundance.
Right.
Because, I mean, like I said, truth be told, he would not have a career. He would not have the career he does, I think. Because it went to other festivals and it screened and it made the rounds. But Sundance is like, that's where Miramax was literally like, we're fucking buying this. Like, they didn't even blink.
Right.
They were just like, we're buying that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even now looking at like the first Clerks, like structurally, like from a narrative standpoint, like it breaks so many taboos.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so part of what makes it great for me and why I still love it as much as I do. It really is its own beast. And as much as I love other movies that Kevin Smith has made, like that's the heart of it. That'll always be, that black and white movie that was shot with the shutters down.
Yep.
They couldn't afford to do it in color. They couldn't afford to color time it, so they didn't. They did the whole shutter bit with the lock and all that stuff because that made shooting feasible for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it worked. It worked.
It's just it's interesting. I think, like, from a mission statement standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And because you still have to push the idea that it is Sundance, but now it's in Colorado. But
right.
There are filmmakers in this state, so you can't help but to like. I mean, no breakup is not without being messy. It is par for the course that you're going to have a breakup and it's going to be ugly. And it is not particularly, you can, it's not you, it's me, it's not me, it's you. You can say all these things and it still turns into this, no, like there's going to be hurt feelings. There's going to be people being bitter. And especially because Sundance was started in 1978.
Was it? I don't even
Find
I
out.
don't even know.
Yeah, they've got one more. Yeah, they've got one more from January 22nd to February 1st of 2026. Okay, so it was founded officially in August of 1978.
Oh, so wow. So it was.
So they
Damn.
have a Sundance London, they have a Sundance Hong Kong. And I mean, it hasn't always. I mean, they've done offshoots in other countries. After the pandemic, though, or from the pandemic, a lot of that stuff didn't stick around.
Right.
So that's why they kind of, because I mean, obviously during that time, everybody lost money. Like nobody made movies, nobody went to movies. So they kind of honed their processes and came back to Utah, which was, I mean, made sense, of course. But now they've moved out of state, and the whole point was that it was here. Like it was meant to be kind of Oh, okay. So, as of 2020, in Utah, the economic benefit of
Mhm.
Sundance was $167 million
Oh, shit.
annually.
Why? See, that's why I don't understand why they would wanna let that go.
Well,
Like
it comes back to, once again, like, they made moves politically that the festival didn't agree with, and the festival called their bluff. And it was funny because Utah, the lawmakers here, those
mhm,
jackholes, they were confident. Like, they were swinging dicks about it. They were like, these fuckers ain't leaving. Like, Sundance, like, that's associated with the state. Like, yeah, you can call it that, but come on. Like, it's Utah. Like, the whole point was it was here for that reason. They wouldn't fucking leave. And it's like, you bet your ass to a barn dance they fucking left.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's, and, oh, before we do end, there's one more thing that I wanted to make sure that I ask you about.
Yes.
You had sent me a link. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet because I was getting stuff ready for the show tonight, but so the new Superman and the new Lex Luthor took a lie detector test.
Oh, yes.
Was there anything spicy that was revealed
No,
during
well,
this?
these, these are all, they're all press pieces. So they're done
Ah,
for kicks. Well, and if you've watched any of them, like, they're hilarious.
mhm,
Especially when, because a lot of times they obviously do it to promote movies. Like, sometimes it'll be a person they ask these questions to, and in this case, like, what I thought was hilarious was the new guy that plays Superman. He asked Nicholas Holt. So Nicholas Holt also auditioned for Superman, and he didn't get it. He ended up as Lex Luthor, but he was asked by David Cornuswet. Hopefully, I have it right.
yeah, something like that. I know it's confusing.
He he asked him. He goes, "So while we were doing scenes, he goes, people may not know you actually auditioned for Lex Luthor." And he was like, "Yes." He goes, "So during our scenes, was there any point where you looked at me and you were like, I could have done that better? Like, they shouldn't have cast this guy."
Hmm,
These are kind of fun because, especially if it's people that are co-stars and friends. Like,
mhm,
one of the best ones was for Deadpool and Wolverine,
right.
where it was like they've known each other for years, and they play well off of each other, just as people, not necessarily just as, you know
Mm,
um, people who work in the industry, but just friends, or at least they did. I think that might have changed because, Ryan Reynolds' wife, getting in some
right.
stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but they did one of these, and those
Mhm,
two were hilarious together.
really, I'm gonna
Oh
have
my
to check
god,
out
yeah.
that.
Well, because a lot of times, because part of what makes it so funny is that as they're doing the tests, they have the test proctor, they have the administrator, and administrator, or administering, who's ever administering the test.
Right.
So, intentionally or unintentionally, they get kind of sucked into it.
Mhm,
And it's hilarious because they're they are not looking at the readout from the voice stress and analysis that she's seeing.
right.
So, every time they ask something and there's an answer and they're laughing, they look at her and it's like true, false, false, true. And these are, like I said, they're kind of press, but some of the stuff is really funny because, like, especially people who've known each other for a long time and they are like they don't you you're kind of waiting for them to buckle, especially some of those questions, because I think when they asked Dakota Johnson recently, because she was promoting The Materialist, was I think it was something to the degree of, did she know that Madam Web was going to be like a flop? And she let it go. Like, as per usual, nobody blames themselves of being a part of something bad when it's easier to turn on the filmmakers. Because let's be honest, the filmmakers did a shit job. You know, it wasn't a very good movie and it wasn't very well conceived or received. And I saw it in the theater. And remember, I was the dipshit who thought it'd be a good idea to go see it in the theater because it was like, let's see how bad this is. Like, we literally had a conversation to kind of joke and go, hey, let's see how bad this is. Like, do you want to go see how bad this is? And you know what? Never dare yourself on that.
Oh, of
Never.
course not. No.
Oh my God. I walked out of that SOB and I was like, what the fuck? I mean, seriously, I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, why did I do that? And I enjoy some less than stellar movies. I don't mind saying that. But I also am like, well, you know, you gotta at least try to find the fun in it. And it is very tricky because in so many cases, you can't just how do I put it? You can't just go, because I mean, there are obviously people who enjoyed it and loved it. And if you found something redeeming out of it, good for you. I really couldn't, outside of the fact that it like had Sweeney or Sydney Sweeney in it. That was my big takeaway, because yeah, she's fucking hot. And unfortunately, we had a very short window of her in a Spider-Woman costume. But what we did have, hey, it worked out. But those I highly recommend. One of the best ones I've seen to date, outside of the Wolverine or Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman one, is Colin Jost and Michael Che, who are very good friends and have been on SNL forever. And oh my God, that shit had me dying, because a lot of it is like, now you know why they're friends. Now you know why they've been together so long and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. And you know, Nicholas Hoult, who's like, I mean, from all the interviews and stuff, like, he's a really good stand-up guy. But also, to his credit, he's a big basketball fan. He goes to a lot of Lakers. Lakers is his team because, you know, he obviously puts around LA, probably a real deal. But he's very much he's a big basketball fan apparently, and it's like, good man. Just too bad a lot of what happens in the NBA now kind of sucks. But he was asked directly, like, because, you know, he loves it, but it's like, being a Lakers fan, like being a fan of anything, sometimes like you have to be honest. Like if your team sucks, your team sucks. Like the hometown team here for basketball, the Utah Jazz, they're fucking terrible. And they tanked so that they could get in a better position for the draft. And it didn't work out because they didn't get the number 1 spot. They got the 5th spot. So
Right.
as per usual, like the best laid plans, but in this case, not obviously the best plans. But you also can't help but to be like, yeah, if you love basketball, you love basketball. But he asked him flat out, he goes, do you think the Lakers will go to the finals this year? And he's like, no. Without skipping a beat, he was like, nope, we're good. He's like, it's not going to happen. Yeah. My team is actually the Spurs. That's who I grew up loving. The Jazz is, I mean, I followed the Jazz for a long time. I don't now, but the Jazz was the reason for me to get into basketball here.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a team about 3 years ago that was actually really good. And they were very, very, very good. They weren't exactly contenders, but they were really damn good. But yes, those lie detector tests that they have for Esquire, they're very entertaining because there are some people who, and a lot of the questions are kind of vetted. You can tell there's a list. They don't just ask them. They don't just ask them real questions like, you know, did you ever play doctor in the 5th grade with some other kid? Like they don't go for the hard-nosed real stuff. They, they ask things to kind of talk about them or promote a movie or something they might have done to kind of look back and maybe laugh at it or whatever the case.
Right.
But some of them, and you can tell, like some of them sweat that shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Some of them really are like, because, and especially nowadays, I mean, it's on YouTube on the Esquire channel or GQ or Esquire. I think it's Esquire. But it's also a case of, you're doing this to promote something. So there's going to be a camera pointed at you. So It's not just a matter of like, oh shit, am I going to tell a lie or something that might be considered a lie or evasive or inconclusive? It's I have to possibly backpedal, and what's that backpedal going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's it.
Good times. But now I got to go watch Happiness again, and now I feel like I got to wear a raincoat while watching it because it's gross.
Yeah, it's something. It is something. Well, how about that? Another banger of an episode.
Absolutely. And I know we're trying to play with time not to make things all drawn out. So I kind of love the fact that we got to the heart of it with John Wick. And it's not a matter of like, oh, let's cut filler, but we have sidebar conversations that kind of crisscross anyway. So
no, it's still it worked. I mean, I really like it was good. So boy, well, right before we end, I'll blow your mind one more time. And I'm literally going to hit the end thing right after I say this. Okay. So we'll talk maybe a minute off air. Okay. But I'll leave it with this, okay? You ready?
Okay.
I have never seen The Bourne Identity.